I have three news stories for you viewers. Firstly, Ethiopia is trying to appease the US government. Ethiopia wants the US government to reverse its announcement of sanctions on Ethiopian individuals, especially visa restrictions. Which efforts are being made by Ethiopia to appease the US viewers? And secondly, why is Ethiopia making an effort to appease the US? Secondly, Ethiopian Minister of Irrigation has visited Rwanda, viewers, and he has delivered a special message of Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed to the President of Rwanda, Paul Kagame. What was the special Ethiopian message delivered by Ethiopian Minister of Water Irrigation to Paul Kagame, President of Rwanda? Thirdly, viewers, African Union has announced to deploy observers to monitor upcoming Ethiopian elections. We'll talk about these three developments. Firstly, viewers, Ethiopia is due to send a goodwill mission to the US. Ethiopia wants to appease the US. Ethiopia wants the US to reverse its announcement of visa restrictions on Ethiopian individuals, especially government officials and military officials, viewers. Though last weekend we saw government sponsored rallies and protests in several regions of Ethiopia, we saw a large rally in a stadium in Addis Ababa. People chanted slogans against the US and people were holding pictures of Russian president and Chinese president, viewers. But it seems that Ethiopia is trying to adopt a diplomatic approach, and Ethiopian government is pursuing a policy of lobbying, viewers. We saw Jim Inhofe, US Senator, visiting Ethiopia just a few days ago. Jim Inhofe backed Ethiopian government stance on Tigray war. So he was invited a few days ago after the imposition of sanctions on Ethiopia, and he visited Ethiopia, viewers. After that, Ethiopia decided to send a goodwill mission to the US. So in the coming days, an Ethiopian delegation is due to visit the US to appease US, to make the US reverse its decision of sanctions on Ethiopia over human rights abuses committed in Tigray. Why is Ethiopia trying to appease the US, viewers? Firstly, the US sanctions do matter a lot. Ethiopia is pursuing a policy of privatization, viewers. Ethiopia has privatized shares of its Ethio Telecom state-backed telecommunication company. Ethiopia is due to privatize some other state institutions as well, and multinational companies will definitely be reluctant to invest in Ethiopia if US sanctions on Ethiopia become tighter in the coming days. So Ethiopia is lobbying, it is sending a goodwill mission, it wants the US to reverse its decision of sanctions regarding human rights abuses in Tigray. But at the same time, Ethiopia is not changing its position on Tigray war. Ethiopian government is not willing to sit with TPLF for talks, viewers. Ethiopia has rejected the possibility of any talks with the TPLF. Ethiopia is due to hold next elections. The US wants postponement of elections. So Ethiopia is not changing its position, but it wants the US to change its position about sanctions imposed on Ethiopia. Let's see what happens. Secondly, viewers, Ethiopian Minister of Irrigation has visited Rwanda. He has delivered a special message of Prime Minister of Ethiopia Abiy Ahmed to Paul Kagame, President of Rwanda. If you remember, viewers, I did a video on Paul Kagame. Paul Kagame is the only African leader who called for action against human rights abuses, against atrocities in Tigray viewers. He had called for action by UN Security Council as well. Back then, his statement was disliked by Ethiopian government, because since Rwanda has seen a genocide in the 1990s, because that is why he was the first one and the only one in Africa to speak against human rights abuses in Tigray. Now, Ethiopian Prime Minister has sent his minister to have a meeting with Paul Kagame, and Minister of Irrigation after this visit said that he briefed Paul Kagame about Tigray war, about Ethiopian dam dispute, and about Ethiopia-Sudan border dispute, and Paul Kagame agreed with Ethiopian position. So these are the words of Ethiopian Minister of Irrigation viewers. But Ethiopia is trying to further its narrative on Tigray war, since Paul Kagame issued a very strong statement against Tigray a few weeks ago. That is why Ethiopian Prime Minister sent a special message, and he tried to brief Paul Kagame about Ethiopian position on Tigray war. Lastly, viewers, African Union is hand in glove with Ethiopian government. African Union has announced to deploy election observers in Ethiopia. Interestingly, viewers, while the European Union is not deploying any observers in the upcoming elections, and the US is calling for the postponement of these elections, African Union has deployed its election observers. So African Union will definitely approve the upcoming elections. Western countries, America, they have not deployed any election observers in Ethiopia, because African Union has been in agreement with Abiy Ahmed since the start of Tigray war, viewers. African Union has not played any proactive role in resolving Tigray crisis. When the war in Tigray started, African Union nominated 3 mediators. Ethiopia rejected this mediation offer. After that, African Union backed off. In fact, it openly supported Ethiopian government's stance on Tigray war. So African Union seems to be hand in glove with Ethiopian government, and TPLF seems to be alone, because no one in Africa, no country in Africa is raising voice in support of TPLF, in support of Tigray viewers. Thank you for watching.